Let's stay in the Ketu South constituency because the MPP has been addressing a news conference on the voter registration there. Fred Kwame Asare has joined us on the phone line to take us through what was discussed. Fred, what are some of the key points that were raised at that news conference? Okay, Daniel, you know that the Ketu South constituency has been in the news for alleged intimidation against some people who had come to apply for, or who had gone to the registration centers to apply for voters' ID card, among others. So the regional chairman, McAfee Wanya, that is the NPP regional chairman, McAfee Wanya, has been addressing some of these issues. He first laid point congratulating the EC for ensuring that the ongoing exercise is successful, even though the opposition NDC casted gloom and then threatened mayhem earlier in the build-up to starting the exercise. He also mentioned that the NDC, realizing that they lost their case, they decided to make a U-turn and then also haul the EC to court, which they also lost. He again mentioned that realizing the deployment of military at some unapproved routes at the Ketu South constituency resulted in the increase in unapproved routes. He mentioned that as of or before the start of the exercise, there were 43 known unapproved routes in the Ketu South constituency. However, following the commencement of the registration exercise, this number has increased to 150, which indicates that there has been 107 new unapproved routes that have been created along the Ghana-Togo border in the Ketu South constituency. He also mentioned that the police have been able to arrest some people. He mentioned a total of 650 people have been arrested, where he said some have been prosecuted, some have been deported, and then some are in quarantine. You know what, Fred? Let's take a listen to the MPP news conference there, then we'll come back to you.
Instructive to have a cursory look at some figures emanating from the ongoing registration exercise. If you have not started doing the analysis by yourself already, even before the exercise comes to a close, let's look closely at the famous Ketu South. In 2016, there were 208 polling stations in Ketu South. The total registered voters stood at 149,219. Today, there are 254 polling stations, and in spite of this, coupled with the security lapses, the propaganda, mobilization, and deliberate busing of foreign nationals across the Ghana-Togo border through the creation of 107 new unapproved routes. This is how the figures stand at the end of the fifth phase. Phase 1, 17,399. Phase 2, 15,817. Phase 3, 27,694. Phase 4, 25,450. On the good people of the voter region, particularly those in the diaspora, to stop swallowing the dirty NDC propaganda and to disregard the ugly noises and tribal tirades. It is their strategy for soliciting funds and undeserved sympathy, whipping up tribal sentiments and emotions of the votarians during registration periods and voting has been an old trick and stock in trade of the NDC. This is the time for the NDC to be accounting to the people of the voter region about their development impact, if any, in the region in the last 8 years under Mahama, and the reason why the voter region should give them their support again. We are ready and prepared to compare the records. We are ready to take the media on a tour to all the old and the newly created and approved routes across the region, with a special emphasis on Ketu South. Thank you. The big question to us is why the NDC is always determined to sacrifice our national security and patriotism just to mobilize other nationals to participate in our internal politics and invest hugely in the mobilization of foreigners to register in this country of ours. The worst is the shameless use of tribal and ethnic politics to achieve their purpose at all costs. A very dangerous trend that must be addressed before it blows in our face. It will interest you to note that at the beginning of the registration exercise, there were 43 unapproved routes in Ketu South alone. But today, additional 107 new routes have been created in Ketu South, bringing the total of the known unapproved routes to 150 in Ketu South alone, making it practically difficult, if not impossible, for immigration.
So live on the pulse, let's wrap up with Fred Kwame Asare, who's still with us on the phone lines. So Fred, tell us about the general atmosphere at Ketu South. How are the people reacting to this alleged intimidation?
Daniel, I should say that the atmosphere in the Ketu South constituency has been that of a good one. Earlier in the morning, I counted about 5 Isuzu pickups that had military personnel on. They were driving towards the border. Then I also saw some military personnel at some unapproved routes in the constituency. However, the registration centers I visited earlier are almost empty. I should say that most people have already registered. So there are just a few people who were waiting for their turn to take part in the registration exercise. However, I've not spoken to people about the alleged intimidation. But then the NDC has been complaining of such intimidations earlier. Earlier, we had issues of the Ketu South NDC parliamentary candidate confronting DCE of the Ketu South municipality, the Ketu South MP, that is Elliot Agbenowu. So I should say that the atmosphere in the Ketu South constituency has been that of a great one.
Thank you very much, Fred Kwame Asare, for joining us. Now, he is from the Volta region. Let's go a bit further up north to the OT region, where 9 persons have been arrested on suspicion they faked their nationalities in order to obtain a voter's ID card in Ghana. They've appeared before court. Now, on the phone with us is our OT region correspondent, Peter Senu. So, Peter, give us the background to this story.
Right, Fred, Daniel, yesterday we understand some operatives of national security picked up 12 people who were in queue to register at Kodibenu Munyako here in the PTB district or the Akan constituency. They picked them up on suspicion that they were Togolese, and then also went to Chikata, also a community, and a registration center there, and then picked 5 people on suspicion that they were Togolese. And so following that into today, 9 people have been formally arraigned before court, and then as we speak, they are on what I'm told is court inquiry bail, a charge they quoted as electoral offences, registration of aliens. That can be found in the CI 126. And so that is for them. 5 of the number have been, released earlier for, should I say, warrant of prosecution, because they were said to be victim of circumstances. They were just picked up when they were returning from funeral. And the 3 nursing mothers who were also picked up at Kodibenu Munyako yesterday have also been released on what I'm told is police inquiry bail. And so that is the situation as we speak now.
It's my understanding, Peter, that one of these nursing mothers was not feeling well.
Yes, that is it. But it's one of the elderly men among the 12 who wasn't feeling well.
Is he still in police custody, this person who is sick?
Yes, well, as I can see him now, he's okay. He's walking normally. I've seen him move around. And so I understand early in the morning that he was going to go to a hospital at Jasikan for a review per doctor's instruction. And so I'm sure he went and came back, so I can see him around looking good than yesterday, Daniel.
Now, these accused persons, Peter, have they spoken? What did they have to say for themselves?
Well, in court, what they said in court is that they will have nothing to say for now until they meet their lawyers. And so that is how come the case has been adjourned till Thursday. You know, their lawyer also have a case which will have a review on Thursday. And so the adjournment was for Thursday so that their lawyer will be present and do whatever argument he has to do in their favor.
And who, might I ask, is this lawyer?
Lawyer Kojogan Adaudu. He came in for an earlier similar case. And so he has a review of that case come this Thursday.
Right. Thank you very much, Peter Senu, for joining us this afternoon. He is, of course, our OT region correspondent. Now, still live on the Pulse. We'll take a quick breather, but still up ahead with barely 4 months to election 2020. We ask, has the nation learned lessons from the bloody Ayawaso West Wogon by-election with pockets of violence at registration centers? Are there any lessons to be learned? We'll have a conversation after this.